r/AITA. Am I the bad guy for keeping my son's dog despite my pregnant wife's disapproval? Story 1. When my 14-year-old son was 8, we got him a dog. It was during that time that we welcomed a unique member into our household, a dog that's half Great Dane and half some breed my friend's dog met during an unexpected escapade. From day one, my son has cherished this dog, taking care of him diligently, except for the visits to the vet and proving himself to be a responsible dog owner. Now, this dog has truly become his best friend. However, life has a way of throwing surprises at us. My wife is currently 12 weeks pregnant, and her behavior toward our beloved dog has taken an unusual turn since we confirmed the pregnancy. She's been avoiding him, instinctively shielding her growing belly when he's nearby, and even jumps when he makes a noise. All of this led to a revelation today. She wants us to find a new home for the dog. Naturally, I was taken aback and asked her to explain her sudden change of heart. Her reasoning left me perplexed. She confessed to having anxiety about the dog jumping on her, a fear that seemed entirely unfounded to me. Our dog has never exhibited such behavior. In fact, we've trained him rigorously not to jump on or collide with people, particularly because he's half Great Dane and we wanted him to be well behaved given his potential size. There was absolutely no logical basis for her to believe that our dog would pose any threat in that regard. She went on to express concerns about the baby's safety, asserting that even if the dog didn't jump on her, her anxiety alone could have negative effects on her health and potentially harm the baby. She firmly believed that for both her safety and the baby's, we needed to find the dog a new home. My response was unwavering. I simply couldn't entertain the idea of parting with our dog. My son's attachment to him runs deep, especially after losing his mother. Sometimes I jest that my son loves the dog more than he loves me, but it's a testament to the profound bond they share. Our dog isn't just a pet, he's an integral part of our family, and he certainly hasn't done anything to deserve being taken away from us. In the midst of our disagreement, my wife accused me of prioritizing the dog over her pregnancy. I know that the dog poses no threat to her pregnancy, and if this were any other irrational request, I would likely comply, especially considering her condition. However, I simply cannot bear the thought of breaking my son's heart over a fear that, in my eyes, doesn't even make sense. So I find myself grappling with this dilemma and wondering, am I the bad guy here? Whoa, so this family situation sounds like a real puzzle, doesn't it? But let's break it down. The dad here shouldn't feel guilty at all for sticking with his son's furry friend. That's just the most balanced move in this scenario. And, well, it's not a tough choice when you're a loving parent. I mean, yeah, the new wife is pregnant, and of course, she'd want a secure environment for herself and the little one on the way. But asking to give the boot to the poor dog, that's just plain insensitive, especially to her stepson's feelings. Now, I get it, the wife's fears are understandable, especially when she's got 2 lives to look out for. We all know expectant moms can be a bit moody, right? Those heightened emotions can lead to fears about all sorts of things. In the wife's case, it's the possibility of their dog jumping on her. But maybe it's just her mom to be anxiety talking. She thinks her anxiety is harming her health and the baby's well-being. Moms surely want a safe pregnancy, and that's a valid concern. The only thing that's not fine, though, is her inadvertently asking to kick the poor dog out of the house. The husband has every right to stand his ground here. His opinions are correct. The dog is an important part of their family, especially for their son. The kid has already gone through the emotional turmoil of losing his mom, and his canine companion has been a source of comfort during those tough times. Taking away his beloved pet could be like ripping away a security blanket when he needs it most. I mean, there are tons of stories about how pets provide emotional support to their owners, especially in tough times. When it comes to ensuring a family's well-being, it's important to consider providing happiness and emotional support to every member. While the dad wants his wife to have a secure pregnancy, he also has to ensure his boy feels happy at the same time. You can just imagine how heartbreaking the situation would be for both father and son if the dad did give in to his wife's unreasonable wish. And that's the thing about the dog in the story. He's more than just a pet, he's family. I think the wife needs to trust her husband more so she won't be so freaked out by the big dog. She could also try being more considerate of the other household members instead of just thinking about herself and her fears. Instead of ditching the dog, maybe she could ask her husband to help her overcome her anxiety around the pet. They could have found ways to manage the situation, like setting up boundaries and making sure the dog doesn't stress out the anxious mom-to-be. The wife could have been more open and honest about her concerns without being insensitive. They should listen to each other's perspectives without jumping to conclusions. It's also important to address her anxiety and find effective ways to manage it, whether through therapy or counseling. The husband should understand and empathize with her during this vulnerable time of her pregnancy. And both parents want what's best for their child and children and the baby on the way, but they should definitely prioritize their son's dog too. It's not just a pet. Like they said, it's his family member, it's his buddy. So finding a way to balance the son's emotional needs and the wife's safety concerns is key. Maybe they could explore alternatives like extra training for the dog or setting some boundaries. The goal is to find a compromise that looks out for everyone in the family, including the dog, while supporting the wife's anxiety in a loving and understanding way. Remember, folks, empathy and understanding go a long way in keeping a family happy.
Psst, guess what? This video is sponsored by none other than me and my awesome crew at Rufus Rugs. We're the masters of creating custom hand-tufted rugs that truly capture who you are. Whether you're looking to turn one of our intriguing thumbnails into a rug, for purely academic reasons of course, or you're eager to transform your room with some epic anime-inspired designs, we can get it done for you. These are all handmade by me and the team from Canada. No dropshipping BS here. Real, handmade custom rugs by me and my friends. Click the first link in the description to learn more.
Story 2. Am I wrong for being upset that my stepdaughter will inherit our house? My husband, who's 65, and I, 47 years old, have been married for a decade. The topic of wills and inheritance came up after my husband's retirement party, and that's when he dropped a bombshell. He intends to leave our marital home to his 30-year-old daughter. I was caught off guard by that and completely shocked by the revelation. I realize there's a significant age gap between us, and the reality is that I may outlive my husband by many, many years, potentially spending my last decades alone. So naturally, I felt upset and angry at the prospect of being kicked out of our house after my husband's passing, essentially leaving me homeless. When I confronted him about it and his decision, my husband explained that the house originally belonged to his late wife, who inherited it from her parents. He argued that I couldn't expect him not to leave the house to their daughter. In response, I asserted that the house now legally belongs to him, and as his wife, I have a right to our marital home. It just doesn't seem fair that I could be forced out of our home considering the time and effort I've invested in redecorating and making it my own. I also emphasize that as a housewife with nowhere else to go, he has a responsibility to ensure my financial security after his passing. My husband countered by saying it would be grossly unfair to his daughter and contrary to his late wife's wishes if I were to inherit the house. He reminded me that his late wife passed away unexpectedly at a young age, leaving no will, which meant he automatically inherited the house under inheritance laws. He also assured me that I am the sole beneficiary of his life insurance and any remaining savings will be split equally between me and his daughter. However, I doubt this money will suffice for the rest of my life, especially given my husband's plans for expensive cruises and vacations during his retirement. Unfortunately, our argument escalated from there and we started shouting at each other. I expressed my frustration, feeling like he's betraying me after everything I've done for him, including giving up my job and career to take care of our home. I firmly believed I deserved compensation. In response, my husband retorted that he never forced me to become a housewife. It was my choice, and I knew the risks and benefits when I made that decision. He also argued that he would be leaving a reasonable inheritance and suggested that if I'm not satisfied, I should return to work. My emotional response was intense. I never imagined I wouldn't inherit the house and it's too late for me to rejoin the workforce after being out of it for over a decade. I accused him of being inconsiderate and leaving me in a dire situation. I felt he was dismissing my contributions to our family. He laughed, claiming I hadn't made any significant financial contribution as we hired cleaners and housekeepers to handle most of the chores, and my spending habits were a drain. At that point, I was furious and in tears, so I yelled at him, accusing him of cruelty and locked myself in the guest room. So, am I in the wrong for wanting the house if my husband passes before me? Okay, I've had a moment to reflect and I understand now that I was wrong. I plan to apologize to my husband and begin searching for a job, something less stressful that I can enjoy while building my own savings. Divorce isn't on the table for me. I want to make it clear that I didn't marry him for money. In fact, I didn't even know he was wealthy until 6 months into our relationship. I was pretty much done with dating and feeling disillusioned with men after being cheated on multiple times until he came along. He was considerate, kind, and loyal, and our worldviews aligned perfectly. I never thought I'd be with someone significantly older, but he was everything I ever wanted. My previous jobs were in customer service, and my last job was as a 999 call handler. It was detrimental to my mental health, and I was earning minimum wage. It was my husband who encouraged me to pursue something I enjoy instead, recognizing how stressed I was. While I did intend to find a less demanding job, I did end up enjoying my time at home, exploring hobbies and living life at my own pace. I must admit it was a comfortable life, and I allowed myself to become financially dependent on him because it was far less demanding. I had grown quite attached to the house, which I wouldn't have done if I had known it would never be mine or that I would potentially be evicted. I mistakenly believed it belonged to his late wife's parents, and I was genuinely shocked and blindsided when I learned otherwise. I had assumed his wife's name was on the deed because she was the primary earner at the time, but I now understand that it was my fault for making these assumptions and acting all entitled. I'm ready to apologize to my husband and stepdaughter. So this whole situation had me scratching my head thinking, wait, what's going on? At first I was thinking, is a wife just after the house playing the role of a desperate housewife? You know, those situations where someone's true intentions come to light during conflicts. But then she tried to explain her side, and it became clear that she was genuinely blindsided by her husband's decision. Still, you gotta wonder, why expect something without even asking for it in the first place? Maybe if she'd known that the house belonged to his late wife's parents, this whole heated argument could have been avoided. The root of this whole mess seems to be a lack of clear communication and a boatload of assumptions from both sides. The wife seemed to expect she'd inherit the house without ever discussing it with her husband. On the other hand, the husband assumed his wife had no such expectations. It's like they were speaking different languages. Then the verbal fireworks started, each of them passionately defending their perspectives on their roles within the family. The wife argued that she sacrificed her career to become a housewife, while the husband retorted that it was her choice all along. Ouch. That's the moment when things escalated from a heated discussion to a full-blown argument. It's a prime example of how assumptions can be relationship dynamite, especially in complicated family dynamics like this. It also brings up the wife's financial dependence on her husband, and that's where things get really tricky. The wife argued that she deserved compensation for giving up her career, and this is where it got really sticky. The husband's response about hiring housekeepers and all felt like a natural defense against that claim. But wait a second, marriage is built on love, not on financial transactions, right? And then there is the issue of future financial uncertainty. It's a real concern for anyone, but the way the wife expressed it sure raised some eyebrows. It almost sounded like she was more worried about the money than anything else. What do you call that word again? Oh, right, gold digger. But in her defense, maybe she was just being brutally honest about her fears. Maybe she should stop and think about the future consequences should her wish come true. If she did end up inheriting the house, it could potentially add even more complexity and conflict to the picture. So what's the lesson here? Well, in any marriage, empathy is the name of the game. Instead of going head-to-head in a fiery argument, a calm, honest conversation could have been the saving grace. It's great to know that the wife eventually realized her own missteps. Now, let's hope she finds a job she's actually passionate about and secures her financial independence. And who knows, maybe they can discuss and compromise on those extravagant retirement plans and find a middle ground. When it comes to family drama, open communication and understanding can be the solution that will save the day. We truly learned something here, even if it's a story about an old married couple. Remember, folks, communication, love, and empathy are the true cornerstones of a healthy relationship. Story 3. I'm a 32-year-old woman who works in research, and I live with my 44-year-old husband. My primary colleague, a 30-year-old man, and I have worked together for about 2 years on a major project involving significant intellectual and labor contributions from both of us. The project is expected to span at least another 2 years and is vital to both of our careers. Now, not long ago, my colleague confessed to me that he is and has been infatuated or in love with me for pretty much the whole duration. This revelation came via a long email that he wrote after an evening of drinking. It was totally unexpected. In retrospect, there may have been some signs, but nothing that couldn't be accounted for by his considerate personality. Shortly after this confession, I discussed the issue with my husband. I wanted to get his advice about the situation and showed him the drafts of my thoughts on the matter. They clearly stated that I was not interested in a romantic relationship and hoped these feelings wouldn't complicate our work together. To my surprise, my husband seemed offended, as if he believed I must have encouraged my colleague's affections, and suggested that I should immediately quit my job, as in put in notice tomorrow. I was so taken aback that my immediate reaction was to laugh and snort at this suggestion, which was probably a mistake. Quitting my job would be utterly disastrous for my career, and it isn't an option I'm willing to consider even. I'd greatly prefer the entire scenario had never happened, as a difficult and lengthy project hangs in the balance. Still, I have no real concern at this point about my colleague forcing the issue or letting it compromise our work. It seemed like an intoxicated, getting my feelings off my chest moment for him. I'll need to put a lot of thought and caution into how I proceed with the work dynamic, but abandoning our project isn't even on the table. So about a week has passed. My husband has been alternating between being irate and giving me the silent treatment. He suggested several times that I should move out of the house to be with my colleague. Today, I swung by the house on my lunch break and found the locks change and my luggage on the patio. He has blocked me on his work number and cell. Obviously, he cannot possibly intend for me to really move out, and he's just engaging in what I absolutely believe to be an power sulk. However, seeing how seriously he's taking this has raised some doubts. Maybe I was ultimately too uncompromising when I refused to even entertain the idea of quitting my job for the sake of conversation and his feelings, and I shut down the idea so abruptly? So, am I the jerk here? Just an update, my husband called me. Long story short, he's been extremely anxious each day when I leave for work, and he couldn't handle the pressure today. I'm, welcome back, home once I've quit my job, which is still unacceptable. I am considering taking a week of accrued paid leave, which will hopefully result in an adult conversation with my husband, as well as coming to a decision about how to best handle my colleague. That failing, I'm hearing the word lawyer loud and clear throughout these comments. I'm grateful for all of the support and perspective. I ended up calling my 38-year-old sister, something I avoided initially because I didn't want to stir the pot by involving family members who are already disliked by my husband. I'm currently with her and my 35-year-old cousin, who are both supportive. Our plan is to call a locksmith tomorrow to regain access to the property since my husband can ruminate with friends or at a hotel for the present, have a cousin collect some important things of mine from the house, and for me to stay with my sister for a few days while I take a hard look at my situation and my options. I'm not set on divorce at this point, but I definitely need to reassert some very basic boundaries before exploring further discussion with my husband. Thank you, strangers, for helping me emerge from the emotional haze with some clarity. Enormous thanks for all the private messages. I'm a little overwhelmed with life in general right now, so I haven't replied to everyone, but I wanted to update and let it be known that I'm safe and I'm well. My husband tried to bar my cousin from entering the family home to retrieve my things, which escalated to a physical confrontation. The police arrived and both my husband and cousin were made to leave the premises. My sister and I changed the locks the next day to secure the house, and I'm staying with family for a little while I plan on my next move, which will, in all likelihood, be a divorce. And thanks again to all who've shared feedback and their concerns. Alright, first things first, let's cut the wife some slack. She's out there trying to hustle in her career, minding her own business while her colleague drops this awkward surprise of a confession through a lengthy email written before even sobering up. Talk about liquid courage, am I right? And whoa, hold the phone, what's going on here? We can tell that she really didn't see it coming, and honestly, who would expect something like that? It's not like she was dropping hints left and right and her colleague mistook her friendly demeanor for something more. Sure, maybe there were some subtle signs, but nothing to write home about. No hearts, no flowers, just some friendly vibes, you know? It was just out of the blue. So his hardworking 32-year-old woman was putting so much effort into her job as a researcher and everything was going fine until that confession took place. Now these colleagues have been working together on a major project for a solid 2 years, pouring their blood, sweat, and brain power into it. And let's take note that the project isn't just any project, it's a career-defining one for both of them. And it's expected to keep them glued together for another couple of years. So yeah, it's a big deal. Now the wife isn't one to keep secrets, especially from her 44-year-old partner. So she spilled the tea and showed him her drafts where she's basically saying, hey dude, I'm all about the job, not some office romance. Hope this doesn't mess up our work. She's being upfront, transparent, and responsible like any partner should be. You'd think Mr. Husband would appreciate that, right? Well, then hold on to your seats. Mr. Husband's reaction is just kind of a plain, quit your job, tomorrow, done, deal. And the wife's like, you serious, bro? It's like trying to swat a fly with a sledgehammer. It's not just an overreaction, it's like he's playing a different game altogether. Now, in a healthy relationship, partners should support each other's goals and dreams, am I right? They don't throw ultimatums around like confetti, but nope, Mr. Husband decides that quitting the job is the only solution. Let's pause there for a second. The wife is all about her career, and she's got plans for it. Quitting her job would be like throwing her career out the window, and she's having none of that. And here's where Mr. Husband goes from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. He accuses his wife of somehow instigating this colleague's crush. Hold up, dude. That's like blaming someone for getting rained on when they left their umbrella at home. It's not her fault her colleague developed feelings. She didn't do anything to encourage it. She's just being herself. But Mr. Husband's ego takes center stage. He feels threatened, and his solution is to go full Hulk smash mode. Instead of talking, discussing, and working through this like grown-ups, he decides to lock his wife out of their house. Pretty cold, right? He's literally throwing a tantrum that a toddler would be proud of. Now let's give some major props to the wife. She's not caving in to this bizarre demand to quit her job, and she knows it would be disastrous for her career, and she's absolutely right. So she's standing her ground and protecting her future. She's not letting anyone trample on her professional growth, and that's admirable. In an ideal world, couples facing such a situation would seek therapy or counseling to navigate these tricky waters. But let's be real, with Mr. Husband's go home to your new spouse attitude, it's clear that rational discussions are off the table. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? Healthy communication is king. Trust and understanding should reign supreme in any relationship. Instead of reacting like an enraged bull, partners should talk things out, support each other's career aspirations, and respect the boundaries between work and personal life. The wife deserves major kudos for her honesty and strength in the face of adversity. Her experience is a reminder that women should never compromise their self-growth for a toxic relationship. It's all about setting boundaries, communicating openly, finding solutions that work for both partners. So remember, folks, in the game of love and relationships, teamwork and communication are very important. Use them wisely, and you'll get through sticky situations together. And hey, if you love this video, you'll surely want to watch r/PattyRevenge. My 6th grade bully gets destroyed. Story 3 is hilarious, and I'll see you there.